Welcome to C++ with Miyoshi. We're going to talk today about OOP, object-oriented programming, and that's not an error. Oh, wait, that is an error. OOP, object-oriented programming. It's a new paradigm, by the way. What's a paradigm? 20 cents, right? Paradigm. No, the paradigm is, my student staff at me about as much as you do, I'm sure. But the paradigm that we've been using so far is a procedural type programming, where everything's fairly linear. Object-oriented programming is a little bit different than that. You create objects, you write classes, and then you create out these objects from those classes. Those objects have members. The members happen to be either data or methods, and methods are merely functions created for those objects. Here's a little bit of vocabulary, some advantages maybe, and some characteristics of object-oriented programming or classes in general. We have encapsulation, which is this data and methods, everything is contained within the object itself. That's encapsulation. It has this thing called data hiding. Unless you make things public, which we'll talk about later, things are hidden. Methods are just functions associated with the objects. We have special functions called accessors. Some people call them setters and getters because you set the data or you get the data from those guys. We have this thing called dot notation where we've learned that with structures already, where you use the object name dot whatever the function is or whatever the data is that you can access. We have this thing called inheritance where you can have different properties from different objects get to each other. Then you have multiple inheritance with C++. You have this thing called polymorphism where you have related classes that can have do all kinds of neat things where you can kind of group them together and refer to them as one type of data, so to speak. And we can reuse stuff. So if we write a class one time, we don't have to just copy and paste it. We can just have that class all the way in its own files and then use those files in another program. And then we have this thing called, and there's this new kind of word, it's called instantiation or instantiate. It's just a fancy way of saying we're declaring an instance of our object. So those are some new things about object-oriented programming. It's a little bit different. It's kind of like this little graphic over here where we have, if we were thinking about programming, this might be a procedural type program where you just go line by line by line. Well, over here we have our class-oriented or object-oriented programming where we create objects, we declare those objects or instantiate those objects in our program, and then those objects talk to each other through methods. They hide their data from each other so that this object can't change the data of another object unless you specifically do so or want to do so. So some advantages and disadvantages, or mostly advantages of object-oriented programming. It's a little bit different, a little bit new, but it's kind of a nice way to program. So look forward to showing you little bit about how to use this object-oriented programming in a little example program I'll show you coming up next. So anyway, tune in next time for more C++ with Miyoshi.